Hello traders, welcome to another daily analysis for Monday, February 13th. And we are right now at 1:20 a.m. February 14th, just about an hour and a half into the prior to the London session. So let me do a quick recap of what happened today and what's probably about to happen in the next two sessions. So today was another quite usual Monday without any tier 1 data to drive the market. So everything is really in a range bound in the new London session all the way until probably the end of London, where we have some volatility into the next half of the New York session. Now, first of all, the biggest events today, of course, is the meeting between Donald Trump and Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau. And that meeting, of course, came out as expected, a quite friendly tone. And as I kept mentioning, previously, that just based on what happened between Donald Trump and Japanese Prime Minister Abe, you can pretty much tell what is this pattern of Donald Trump. Is that he always like to sort of talk tough, like he likes to talk more negatively than what's really happening. So just based on the meeting between him and Japanese Prime Minister, we already know that the meeting between him and Canada is not going to go too badly, and that was exactly what happened today. So a few important things that two nations vow to have this great relationship since they are neighbors pretty much. But the most important thing is talking about a trade deal that he is going to tweak the NAFTA instead of chop it off. So that's very different than previously when he said he's going to, completely, basically it sounds like he is going to, completely eliminate the NAFTA deal completely, but that was not the case. So of course this has increased a tremendous sentiment for Canadian dollar because the trading with US is much critical for Canada. It is critical for US as well, but it's much critical for Canada, as that's Canada's largest trading partner. So this alone give Canadian currency a lot of positive sentiment, and that's why we probably gonna see a lot of strength into Canadian dollar. Now, on top of that, the OPEC compliance, as I mentioned previous video, again, that also inject a great sentiment into Canada, and Canada itself had released a quite positive fundamental data last week and the week before that. So that's why basically Canadian dollar is a very good currency to buy for now. That's the biggest news, and the other one is pretty much that's it. That's the big news. Then the later in Asian session, fundamentally, we had the Chinese CPI and PPI all came out better than expected and previous. Now this is a very complete and congruent picture for the Chinese economy. The trade balance, from trade balance to GDP, now to inflation. So now it's a quite positive pictures. Of course, the biggest beneficiary will be Australian dollar, and so this will again inject a lot of bullish sentiment into the Australian dollar. So for each currency right now, for euro dollar is still the most negative currency for me, and a few reasons. Fundamentally speaking, first you have these Greek debt negotiations, and that right now the negotiation has stalled. Reason is because you have this kind of power play between ECB and IMF. So basically they both have their own austerity plan, but Greece also have to see if they're willing to accept this plan. So this negotiation always turn out to be a big event. Remember in 2015, Greece almost went bankrupt. So we might have that same incident again this year. Really depend on what's going to happen. The bond is about to expire in summer, but so far Greece does not have enough money to pay back. So the bailout is a necessity. but whether they are going to reach that agreement, because right now the eurozone has also grown a little bit impatient for Greece anymore. People are really kind of get used to the possibility maybe Greece will really just leave Euro, because they actually shouldn't even be with Euro in the first place, if you know the history of that. So that, nevertheless, is going to cause a lot of negative sentiment on top of the already existing political unstableness for the Eurozone this year. And again, fundamentally, the ECB kept this low interest rate market continuously. So all these fundamental and sentimental element has downplayed euro dollar tremendously. So that's why I think euro is still a very bearish currency. For US dollar, exactly same picture. Fundamentally, it's very strong. The NY Fed has actually raised up the 1-year inflation expectation from 2.8% to 3%. Now, this is the highest expectation since summer 2015. So fundamentally, it's a very congruent picture. What's really blocking the US dollar going up has been the negative sentiment from Donald Trump. And now, since we saw he had changed his tone to a much softer stance, so that, of course, become a more positive thing for US dollar. But don't hold your breath, because he might, completely act very crazily tomorrow. So I wouldn't bet just because the sentiment, because sentiment can shift very fast. So for me, US dollar has always remained a currency that I either trade in a more longer term perspective or in a very short term perspective. Tomorrow you will have the Janet Yellen speak in front of the Congress. That will be a very big event, not only for US dollar, but for the global economy. So you can tune in for that. I think that will be live broadcast. Another news is Michael Flynn resigned today over the Russian contacts. Now this, I don't know whether it's a good sentiment or not, because on the other hand, you cut off an official that had a previous tie with Russia. Should be a good sentiment for US dollar. But this alone create another uncertainty over who is going to take over his position. So again, we really don't know how the sentiment is going to be for the US dollar, because all the political events right now. So again, if you want to trade US dollar, it is really best to just follow the fundamental strength and have a much longer term perspective, or a much shorter term perspective if you like to trade live and monitor it in front of your computer. Canadian dollar, as mentioned, a very strong currency for me due to all the events right now. And it will really, in the short term, I think it should really keep going up. And of course, you will have the up-down movement, especially if you trade in dollar CAD. But it's not because Canadian dollar has anything. It's just because US dollar is very unstable right now. For British pound, I don't have much major news today, especially for Brexit. We are still holding a neutral perspective for this currency. It had been filled up in the upside, especially when versus euro, because the positive fundamental data last Friday continued to push British pound up. But that effect is going to fade it out very soon. I think today we will have CPI data from British pound as well. So that's another tradable event that you can do. Australian dollar is the strongest currency once again because of the Chinese data and the high commodity price Chinese data. The carry trade with Japanese yen, since Japanese yen now back to become a weak currency because of the risk on sentiment. So Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar also had regained a lot of ground. New Zealand dollar especially will be, I think personally, will recover quite a lot this week, because last week you had this kind of panic sale or disappointed sale from the trader, and I think I personally think it's oversold, because I really cannot find any fundamental reason to justify the selling of New Zealand dollar, nor can I find any sentimental reason. There wasn't any incident that will cause people to dump New Zealand dollar, right? The only reason was because people were disappointed that the RBNZ is not going to hike the interest rate soon. So I think this week we will see a little bit recovery into New Zealand dollar, which it will go upside. Japanese yen, now the market has calmed down since the meeting between Trump and Abe. So now Japanese yen remained back to what it should be according to the BOJ and government's policy. It's going to be a weak currency right now. It will be good for the Japanese economy, but bad for any currency holders. So Japanese yen remain to be a negative currency to sell. Swiss franc, again, not much major news. Fundamentally still bearish, sentimentally also bearish for now because the risk on sentiment. But Swiss franc and Japanese yen, you have to watch out if we have further negative news over Eurozone, especially over this kind of Greek debt crisis once again, or any sort of political incidents over Eurozone or US, that will give a safe haven currency a very large inflow. So be careful for those kind of events. Otherwise, these two currencies should be continued pressure on top of the risk on sentiment we have. So today I didn't really trade much. I think I did one daily trade, but nothing much. Euro pound trade I entered last Friday, exit today, and of course I didn't get low. It kept dropping, but I just got out at the low of the PV level today. It's about, I think about 20-30 pips. So not much differences. It was a risk event trade last Friday, right here actually, but it has stalled as I mentioned. I got in actually right at this red candle, went against me, went in my favor, and then really finished Friday with virtually no movement. Open today, yesterday Asian session. Again, no movement all the way until finally in post London session we continue to drop. So obviously I think we're due for a little bit of recovery because British pound, we have the data today, so we'll see what happened. But that's the only trade I took today. Let's take a look at my daily trade right now. First, take a look at my dollar trade. Dollar yen trade, again, I got in with this green candle, a little bit, indecision, gap up today, and now it looks like we are retracing. So this is a longer term perspective trade. My stop loss is way below 11150. I'm just holding this to see what's going to happen. And of course, tomorrow, Janet Yellen's speech might completely change the picture. But again, this is a more like a longer term perspective. Another one is dollar Swiss, same picture, but I think much better than dollar yen. I'm still holding it and really looking in a more long term perspective for this thing to go up. Another one is Pound Aussie. I have a short trade here. Now, we will have the CPI data today, but because Australian dollar has such a strong strength right now, so I'm very confident to keep holding this trade. The CPI data later on, if it's very positive, you might hurt this trade a little bit, but it's not going to change the fundamental reason for me to get out. So that's why I'm pretty much going to keep holding this one. And I also have a New Zealand dollar trade long for the very simple reason that I think it's being oversold, but I might be wrong. So this one I'm holding it. It's again a very good just because I also have a dollar long. So for me to hold a dollar short, it's sort of a hedging. I don't do it out of the hedging purpose. It just happened to be in that way. So that's pretty much what I have on my plate right now. Today, the risk events will be British pound and US dollar. Let me take a look. What time is it? I think it's 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. So Tuesday, yeah, you have a CPI year on year at 430. And you also have the flash GDP data for Euro. This normally doesn't cause too much volatility because it's quite in line. But of course, if you have anything that's outside deviation, which I already put on the sheet, which you can go to my website to take a look at that. If you like to trade the risk events, you could, but wait for it to give you a surprise. And then you have PPI from US. This is not tradable for me. I know it's red, but it's not something will cause too much volatility for the very simple reason that you have Yellen speaks. So no, like there's not going to be a big money coming in prior to her speech, right? So US dollar, I think for the next hours until 10 a.m. is going to be quiet in the range bound, unless people like to price in for Yellen's speech, but it is hard to price in for this kind of incident. You don't really have any fundamental criteria. If you have this kind of previous number, forecast number, you can put a bait. But when you have this kind of speech, you never know what they're gonna say. So most smart money are not going to risk in this kind of. They are not going to price in this kind of speech. But I never know if they did price in, then you can look into short. So it's always just trying to go against the crowd because that's where you have the most money to be made. So that's pretty much what's going to happen today for Tuesday. And let's take a look at our 28 currency pairs. Just give me 1 second. All right, so for Euro right now, Euro Pound, again, we actually dropped. I got out again during the intraday trade because I just feel like, we have 3 this kind of small candle. I didn't know, post London session, it will continue to go lower. But nevertheless, as a trader, you have to get used to it that you're never going to get in or get out at a high, absolutely high or absolutely low, right? It's for me as my personality always like to be perfect. But throughout my trading career, you just have to realize it's a very a deep pressure or stress that you give yourself if you always trying to catch the top and bottom, because it's not what's going to make you profit. It's really, I always like to say, you want to catch the meat of the action, not the top and bottom, because you catch a top and bottom, you do feel a little bit well and confident, but it does not show too much differences in your portfolio. So really, the point is trying to catch the trend, not the top of the trend or bottom of the trend, and don't kick yourself over those things. I always understand that you will not get out at the absolutely low or absolutely high, but you want to get out with a profit, right? That's more important. So Euro Pound, not much going on. I think you have to watch out for this 200-day moving average as a very important support. So even though today, if we have a positive data from British Pound, the Euro Pound will drop, but how low it will drop, that's the question you have to ask yourself. Euro Swiss, I don't have much going on in this currency pair. Euro dollar, as many of you can see, it has been dropped ever since this nice kangaroo tail. So any of you that actually took this signal would be very, pretty much you reach your one-on-one already. This is really a critical support area also. So you already see 1.06 already reflected a strong support area. In a longer term perspective, of course, Euro dollar is still looking to the downside. Same as Euro Aussie, also looking to keep going down. It has been going down for such a long time already. Euro CAD also looking to go down, and same as Euro New Z. So don't really have any signal to sell right now. Euro Yen, not going to touch it because I don't have any bias toward either currency. Pound Swiss franc, again, I don't have any bias toward British Pound. British Pound for me, it's very neutral. So unless I pair up like Pound Aussie, will be something I'm more confident to hold it. Pound CAD, I'm also looking to short, same as Pound New Z, but I don't have any signal right now. Pound Yen, again, not something I will touch because I don't have any particular bias, fundamentally speaking. same as Swiss franc, Japanese yen. Now dollar trade, as I already mentioned, this is the one I'm intent to hold, dollar Swiss and dollar yen. Dollar CAD, on the other hand, not something I like to touch because I don't have any bias toward either one of them. Aussie Swiss, looking to long, don't have a signal for today. Aussie dollar, also not going to touch. Aussie CAD, Aussie New Zealand, for me, it's not something I will trade because they both are quite strong in terms of this incident. Aussie yen, something I'm looking to long. Looking back, this was a good signal. I wonder why I didn't take it. Maybe because it's too close. Yeah, I remember now. It was too close to the near-term resistance, so I didn't take this on top of this bullish candlestick signal. So just a personal preference for me, always, especially holding this kind of daily trade, I'm always trying to have a bigger room to go upside. CAD Swiss, something I'm looking to long. CAD Yen, also looking to, this one I'm already in. So yeah, this is the trade I'm in already. I don't think I have mentioned about this one. So CAD Yen, I got in at this, double bottom, bullish candlesticks. And also I intend to hold this at this all the way until here. And I think it will touch it, but we might go down first before we keep going up. But for fundamental perspective, the bias is quite strong in favor for Canadian dollar. Now, New Zealand dollar, again, not looking to the upside, technically speaking, but I think it's a good pair to get, good currency to get in for this week. I do think we will have a little bit recovery this week because it dropped so much from last week. I think New Zealand yen or New Zealand Swiss will be something I'm looking to long. I'm already in New Zealand dollar, but for the simple reason, as I say, that this is also a good hedge trade for me personally. Now, of course, you have this bearish signal today, but I just say if you don't have any fundamental bias, I still wouldn't sell New Zealand dollar right now, just because you have a big risk events for US dollar tomorrow. So you don't want to get in before those kind of risk events, right? So we never know if this signal is going to work, this candle is going to work or not. So that's pretty much what I have right now. It's a quite weak to start with, but you will have more station coming, more activity coming up later on. So especially the Jenny Yellen speaks, she's going to testify twice, one in front of the testify twice in front of the Congress. So you will have a more volatility coming, and Wednesday, tomorrow, you will have this kind of employment data for British pound, another inflation data for US dollar. So it's more to come for this week. We just started right now. So that's pretty much it for now. And again, let me know if you have any question. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow with another daily analysis. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.